Happy Monday to you. Bitcoin with Dinny, it's Dinny here. Bitcoin is confirmed, going to 1 million. I'm going to give you all the facts, so you have all the information, and you can make better decisions. Guys, welcome. Hit the like button if you're just jumping on. Make sure you subscribe, become part of the community. A lot of the people who are watching the content aren't actually subscribers, so you probably missed some of the calls. You might miss some of the videos. So if you like the content, do your daily exercise. I'm out here, getting my grounding in, walking these lads. It's a beautiful day here in Dublin. And I'm happy to be here with you for a couple of minutes. This is the channel where, well, you'll be good now, come on out here, where we teach you how to retire early. We teach you everything that I've learned over since I begun my journey into finances. When I lived in a caravan, I had a net worth of absolutely zero and I knew nothing. And now I'm in the fortunate position where I can work for fun, only on things I enjoy, and Bitcoin is one of them. And I want to teach you guys exactly what I've done. This isn't a place where I promise you easy riches or get rich quick or any of that. Okay, we teach you solid, sound fundamentals, because that stuff works. It's solid, sound investing fundamentals, okay, have retired people early. Speculating and high risk stuff is just how people destroy wealth and can never get climb up the rung of the financial ladder. So when it comes to Bitcoin, Bitcoin has this thing called the multiplier effect, and I want to talk to you a little bit about that so you can understand that as money comes into this thing, the price goes up. But the price can go up a lot, and this is why you shouldn't trade Bitcoin, because it moves too fast. You've just got to be like time in the market, not trying to time a market. What unsophisticated people do or have no experience, because it makes rational sense. I should try and sit in the sidelines and know when to get my money and to get the most value for my money. But all that stuff's nonsense. All that stuff is from people who actually don't understand how to invest, and people who do understand how to invest, they create their own personal thesis, and then they build a strategy upon that. And that's exactly what I do in my consulting and in our Retire Early clubs. We teach people how to do these things. So, the Bitcoin multiplier, guys, I'm going to explain it to you. I can't remember who came up with this. It was one of the big financial plans. One of the big banks came up with this figure. But it's for every dollar that flows into Bitcoin, increases the market cap 114 times. Okay? And this is where people underestimate Bitcoin. And then instead they gamble and speculate on shitcoins, and then they get wrecked in the bear market, and they stay poor rather than being able to access the greatest piece of property on the planet. Ignore any scammers in the comments. Never engage with anyone who messes you out of the blue who's going to make you loads of money. Unfortunately, people are silly enough to do this, but just be careful, especially for newer people who are a bit naive. So the Bitcoin multiplier effect, for every dollar that comes into Bitcoin, it increases Bitcoin's market cap 114 times. There's a couple of models on this, okay? There's an even more bullish one. And the way I'll explain that to you is, let's say I live on a street, okay? We're on a street. This is just a hypothetical situation, so you can understand this, and then you can really understand the potential of Bitcoin and why we are locked in to go to 1 million, okay? There's a street with 5 houses on it. 4 houses aren't for sale. All 5 houses aren't for sale, and then one person decides they're going to sell their house. Now, when the last house sold, okay, let's say 5 years ago on the street, it sold for 400 grand. So all the houses on the street, you know, they're all equal size, equal shape, equal condition. It's just an analogy to help you understand. So you can safely assume, well, the last one sold for 400 grand, okay, all the houses are worth 400 grand. But then one of the houses goes up for sale, and it sells for 500 grand, okay? So, 4 5s are 20, the market cap of that street, okay, because the last one sold for 400,000 and there's 5 houses, the market cap of that street was 2 million, okay? But now, because one of the houses is after selling for 500 grand, what that means is we have 5 5s or 25, so now the market cap on the street is 2.5 million. So although only 100 grand flowed into the asset class, being that street, okay, so only 100 grand came into it, but the market cap was multiplied, because now it's assumed, well, all 5 houses are worth 500 grand now, so 5 5s are 25. So that's 2.5, and that's the multiplier effect. Hope that makes sense. Think it through, do the math yourself. As you guys know, I'm dyslexic as hell. Never stopped me retiring early, so don't let that hold you back. And doing maths in my head is probably not one of the things. So you might want to check the figures, but you can understand what I'm saying, that even though only 100 grand came in, that only one house sold for 100 grand more, it increased the market cap of the street, okay, by 500 grand. So you have a 5-to-1 multiplier effect, because each house now is assumed to be worth that, because something is only worth where a buyer and a seller meet in the middle. That's where price is found. So with Bitcoin, it's the very same way. So people are assuming, who don't understand this, they're like, oh, well, for Bitcoin to get to this price, it means 200 trillion has to come into Bitcoin. Not true. Not true. Okay? A couple of 100 billion will put zeros on Bitcoin's price because of this multiplier effect. Because not every Bitcoin on the planet is for sale. They're in the hands of hodlers. Okay? And a hodler is someone who understands what they own, and they're going to hold the asset. They're not interested in selling the asset. So you can't find the price just by dividing the amount of money that's trying to flow into the asset class and dividing that by 21 million, because of the multiplier effect, because not every single Bitcoin on the planet is liquid. Some people decide to hold their Bitcoin for 5 years, 20 years. And then the psychopaths that will never ever sell it, because why would they sell something that's going up in value forever? They'll just leverage it. They keep the property. Okay? So that's what you have to understand, is the multiplier effect. So how much money is there potentially to flow into Bitcoin? My toes are getting a little bit cold here. How much money is there potentially to flow into Bitcoin? Well, let's look at the bond market. At the moment, Bitcoin is sub 1 trillion. So there's not even $1 trillion worth in the whole market cap of Bitcoin. Okay? The bond market, I can't remember the exact figures. It won't really matter a damn. 150 to 200 trillion is the bond market. How are bonds doing? Bonds are doing terrible. Bonds are wrecked. Because when you buy a bond, if you buy a 30-year treasury off the US government, and they're going to pay you 6%, okay? When you factor in how much inflation is going to be over 30 years, you realise that, yeah, you've got your interest every year, but when you layer upon the inflation, you've actually lost money. So people aren't buying bonds. The US government couldn't even sell their bonds at the last auction thing, and they said there was a glitch in the software to try and make an excuse because of markets like, we're not interested. So there you've got a pool of 200 trillion. Remember, Bitcoin's under 1 trillion, and remember what I said, it's not a case that you have to get all 200 trillion flowing in, but literally 1 trillion flowing in because of the multiplier effect. That does not double Bitcoin's price. Okay? You multiply it by 114, I won't be able to do it in my head. And this is what people aren't understanding. Okay? So there's your bond market, 200 trillion. Let's say 1% moves to Bitcoin. What's that do to the price of Bitcoin? It causes to move a lot. Let's say 2%. Let's say 5%. Let's say 10% over the next 10 years. Stops buying bonds because they're losing money. But let's assume people are not that stupid. And they actually figure out, well, why would I buy a bond? Let's say 50%. You know, it's just crazy when you actually try and walk this through. That all people have to do is act rationally and in their self-interest. If they do the work on Bitcoin and realize, holy shit, Bitcoin's giving me 100% a year. 50 to 100% a year is its annual growth. So some years it might go down 50%, and then 2 years it does 100%, and then 400%, and it levels out to average around 50 to 100% is what it's been doing. So that's the bond market. There's a few quid on the side there that may decide to go into Bitcoin. What about the stock market? Well, stocks aren't working. Stocks haven't worked in years. Okay? There's a handful of stocks, you can count them on one hand, that are actually delivering returns. Okay, from these whopper tech companies. The likes of Apple. Well, like, what have Apple done in the last few years? They've just made new iPhones and new iPads. They haven't invented anything new. So it doesn't really look like the growth that they've had. Like, maybe they're sort of maxed out. Maybe they're just like selling shiny, different shaped iPhones, but you know, they haven't had any new innovation. And the rest of the stock market that people buy, what about all the trillions that are in all the other assets? Because again, the stock market, 200 trillion in inferior, shitty assets that aren't performing, and people are just old and brainwashed because it's their financial advisor who's making them buy them because he makes all the money from it. Okay, but eventually they're going to figure out, hold on, I'm not making anything from my stocks, I'm actually losing money. And my son keeps telling me about Bitcoin. and he's just 10x his wealth in the last 2 years or 5 years or whatever it was. Like, can I move some of my stock wealth into this Bitcoin thing? Yeah, if you think rationally, you probably will, and they will. So the stock market of 200 trillion, you're going to see capital leave that and go to Bitcoin. And we've already seen it, because the traditional stock bond portfolio was, you had 40% bonds, you had 60-40 stocks and bonds, okay? But that doesn't work. Ray Dalio, all the smart investors are saying, that model's broken, it doesn't work anymore, we're going to come with a new model. Okay, so that's that. What about currencies? What about the currency market? How many trillions is there in world currency? Is any of that likely to migrate to Bitcoin? Well, you guys are learning, and you guys are watching my videos, and I hope you're doing your daily exercise, out walking on the beach in your bare feet. Ground yourself, okay? You don't need all those electrons. Give them back to Mother Earth. You'll be healthier first. You'll have more energy. Your daily exercise, just hit the like button. That's all we ask from you. Okay, but you guys are learning, and you're starting to figure out that cash is trash. You know, and people are sort of schooled into cash is king. That's bullshit. Absolute bullshit. That's only a poor person would say that. A wealthy person would never say those words. Okay? Because cash is an asset that literally goes down in value every second you hold it. Okay? So just because someone has told you something all your life doesn't mean it's true. It's a lie. Okay? So cash is one of the worst assets you can hold. So rather than saving in cash, a lot of people are figuring out that they can save in Bitcoin. Yes, it's volatile, but every human on the planet who's saved in Bitcoin is richer if they do it for 4 years than when they started. Every human. There hasn't been an exception to the rule yet. Okay? If you regularly save in Bitcoin, you do a 4-year apprenticeship, you're richer. So it makes sense. You know, and that's the Bitcoin strategy that we do with our companies that we consult with, and all my companies. And I do personally, like I save in Bitcoin. It just makes sense rather than saving in cash, because cash is going down in value always. Okay, so the currency market, a couple of 100 trillion, remember the multiplier effect, guys. Every single day people are figuring it out, they're setting up their own personal little Bitcoin strategy, and they're choosing to get rid of some of their euros or their pounds or their dollars and change them into Bitcoin. Okay, happy days. What else have we got? Is that the true potential? Like, because I think if we get like 2% of all those markets, we're already at the million. What about gold? Well, Bitcoin's digital gold. And again, I'll be hard on gold bugs, because gold bugs should understand purchasing power. And gold hasn't saved anyone's purchasing power in over 10 years. So it hasn't been working. Why? Because we've created a new technology that's better. It's called Bitcoin. It does everything that gold does, but it improves upon all its characteristics, and it solves all the problems. Okay? One of the problems with gold is trust. You have to trust that the gold is real. You have to trust that Fort Knox has all the gold, even though they never tell you. You just have to trust them. Okay? You don't have to trust with Bitcoin. Everything can be verified. And that's the beauty of it. So you can do a trade, you can buy anything with Bitcoin or sell anything for Bitcoin, and if the Bitcoin lands in your wallet, it's verified through Bitcoin. Because remember, Bitcoin's the largest supercomputer in the world. I think it's 3 Earths more powerful than all the other computers combined to try and break it. So you're short a few Earths if you're trying to attack Bitcoin. Earths of power, yes. That's how powerful the Bitcoin network is. And this is why when people say, oh, it could go away, it could be turned off, it's like, listen, do the work and stop assuming you know anything, because you know nothing. Okay? So gold at the moment, 10 trillion. 10 trillion in a dumb rock, and the majority of that is called a monetary premium. So yes, we wear gold as jewellery, but the majority of gold's market cap is a monetary premium, which means they're just gold bars that sit in safes. Okay? Should some of that start to move to Bitcoin? Well, I know loads of people who've sold their gold and converted it to Bitcoin, because they've done the work on it and they came to the conclusion, holy shit, I've got to move with the times. Okay? And even if they don't do the work on it, okay, those that hold gold will die, and their son or daughter will inherit it, and these people are tech savvy, and these people understand where the future is, and these people understand that there's a digital gold, and why would you hold the old analog product when it doesn't give you any returns, it doesn't even beat inflation. And it makes much more sense to hold the digital gold. So there's kind of a few quid going to come in there from gold's market cap into Bitcoin. Is that it, guys? Hell no. What about property? Property market is 400 trillion. Okay? Houses, commercial property, things like that. Are you liking the content? Let me know. Let me know. Oh, the sand's getting a bit soft here. Let's try and find a bit of harder sand over here. Let me know if you're liking the content, guys, and try and share this with as many people as we can. Remember, all your Irish financial advisors, all your talking heads have failed you. Okay? They have bashed Bitcoin for the last 3 years while I've tried to educate people. unfortunately. So they've basically kept people poor, whereas a tiny little 1% allocation would ensuring people's 99% of their wealth. So on a risk basis, like, Bitcoin is the least risky thing. If you're following me on Instagram, you'll see that graph I showed to show that it's nearly off the chart compared to every other asset. So, property, guys. Rich people, they buy property. They've always bought property. It's how you get wealthy. Okay? And so Bitcoin is the exact same as owning a house. Not the house you live in, because you can't live in a Bitcoin. Nor can you live in your investment property. That's not why wealthy people buy property. They don't care that you can't live in it. They don't care that someone can live in it. They buy it for two reasons. For the capital appreciation primarily, and sometimes for the cash flow. Bitcoin does both of those things. Bitcoin gives capital appreciation like nothing else on this planet. Okay? And with the forecast of everything I've laid out, it should be pretty obvious to you that nothing's going to keep up with capital appreciation than Bitcoin. Okay? Because it's such a tiny asset. It's only beginning. It's a new asset class. You don't get to live through the growth and birth of a new asset class. You know, for thousands of years, we never had a new asset class come and be created. So there's lifetimes of people who never got this opportunity. And you just happened to stumble across me, chatting about it, and you should do the work on this thing, because you've no idea the opportunity that's sitting right in front of you. Okay? And as I say, for thousands of years, no one got this opportunity, but you just happen to be living through it. Lucky you. Hope you take it. Hope you figure it out. So the property market is 400 trillion, and Bitcoin is under 1 trillion. Do you think people might decide, you know what, that rental property, they're taxing me every year. I get the whole Bitcoin tax deferred, so I don't pay tax on Bitcoin every year. I only pay tax when I sell it. That's a lot more favourable. And instead of people ringing me up at night saying the neighbours are making noise, the wash machine's broken, the sink's leaking, and all the hassle that people have when they actually own property, and if they actually paid themselves a wage to maintain all the property, they'd probably realise this isn't really working out too well. Okay? So, and I've had this in our consulting office for the last 4 years. I've had a lot of property investors who've literally came to that conclusion and go, you know what, I can own Bitcoin, I don't get any of the hassle, I get more of the upside. It just makes sense, Dinny. It just makes sense. So, property investors, you know, and like everything, they probably don't sell all their property, but if you own 10 houses, maybe get rid of one, you put that into Bitcoin. So of that 400 trillion, what percentage of that migrates across? Probably a few quid. What does that do in the multiplier effect to the price of a Bitcoin? It's getting scary now, guys. It should get scary, like, in the next 10 to 15 years, where this thing is going. Because people have no idea. They're just such short-term thinkers, and they haven't done the work on it. Is there any other place that money might migrate from Bitcoin, even though tiny percentage of all these other asset classes takes Bitcoin to multiples of millions? What about collectibles? Why do we collect things? Because they're scarce and desirable, and they allow us, you get capital appreciation. But there's a carry cost to everything that's physical. In that, you know, if you have a painting, there's a carry cost to it. You have to have it insured. What happens if the house burns down? What happens if someone robs it? What happens if someone who's fucking, you know, do you stop oil people and they go and destroy it? Okay, what happens if it gets stolen? It's easy to steal. You just break into your house, it sits there. Alright? And I don't just mean paintings, I mean any collectible, a classic car. Okay? Wine, whiskey, all the scarce things that we collect as humans. And they're a niche market, they're not transferable. If I have a classic car in Ireland, I can't just send it to Australia for free. It'll cost loads of money and take loads of time. If I have that equivalent amount in Bitcoin, you can send it anywhere in the world. And everyone can verify it. So it's not a case you have to trust and get someone to analyse the car to see is there rust or see is the engine gone. So you have all this trust that you have to layer in and factor in and price into it. You don't have any of that. So people who own collectibles, if they're just holding them for the monetary aspect, that they just want to protect and grow capital, why would they bother? Why would they risk holding the physical asset when they can hold a digital asset, which costs them zero to carry? No cost to holding it. Okay? So there's a collectibles market. How much is in the world in collectibles? There's a few quid sitting there with the multiplier effect. I hope you figured that out. If you've come to the video later, make sure you go back and check out the multiplier effect so you understand that for every dollar or euro that comes into Bitcoin, it increases Bitcoin's market cap possibly 114 times. And this is why the growth is exponential. I'm sure there's other places where money is going to come from Bitcoin, like corporate treasuries, you know, companies, similar to what all our companies have done. And all the companies I've consulted with, or let's say MicroStrategy, like that's been the highest performing company. Why? Because they put their balance sheet to work. So most other companies, they just earn money and they leave the money in the bank, and sometimes they put the money into bonds. Okay, so they buy treasuries. But as I told you at the start of the video, the treasuries aren't performing. So companies are going to start figuring out, right, we've got 500 million in the bank. That's what Michael Saylor figured out in 2020. Of 500 million in the bank. Since we've closed down the world's economy and made everyone stay at home, and we're just going to print money and give people money, that 500 million, someone has literally lit it on fire, because inflation is going to run super hot because of that for a decade. So I need to invest that. So we decided, instead of holding dollars, he was going to hold Bitcoin. But how many other companies are there on the planet that have 5, 10, 20, 100 million, maybe $1 billion in cash? How much have Apple got in cash? Invested into treasuries that are losing money. You know, they're smart enough people. They're going to come to the conclusion, I'll probably own something scarcer. So this is what's ahead of us. This is where we go. This is why you have a generational opportunity to figure this stuff out and acquire the scarcest, most desirable piece of property that any human can get a hold of. And like I say, thousands of people never got this opportunity for thousands of years, and you just happen to be living through it. I hope you're not distracted with shitcoinery. Because all that does is, for 98% of people who get involved, it gives money to VCs who are smarter than you and richer than you. So you're better off just trying to study Bitcoin and create a Bitcoin retirement plan. Because as I said to you, if you can understand everything I'm just after saying, you get to have everything you want without taking any of the risk. Nothing you hear here is financial advice. If you do want proper advice, book in for a consultation. I can go through something personally with you, or join our Retire Early Club, where we teach you everything that you need to do to understand how to invest, to understand how to manage risk, and to understand everything that you weren't taught in school. Guys, have a super day. It's a beautiful day here. I've just walked the length of the beach, and we're going to swing around shortly and head back. Thanks for being here, guys. Throw a comment in, let me know if you did get value out of that, if you understood it, and if you didn't understand everything. And let me know if there was any other place where money is going to come from to flow into Bitcoin to leverage the multiplier effect that I missed out. Dinny out.